Once you've made your changer, you will know the spacings for your strings and you'll be able to make your pickup coil. This is done with 10 magnets. They're 6mm by 20mm round bar magnets. You'll be able to get the plastic from a scratch plate or any kind of plastic that you like that are stiff. Cut out 2 strips from your sheet, and then you can then shape it and make a nice straight line down both sides. It should be 25 millimeters wide by about whatever length your changer is. Make sure that you have the same distance from your magnets to the edge there as you have at the ends, and then you can round the ends off with a file. You can then join them together. If you stick the 2 pieces of plastic together and drill the holes as one, you can then part them and you'll have exactly the right place for the holes in the top and the bottom sheet. The bottom sheet can be left in an oblong state like this. If you drill a hole in each corner in case you need to hold them down with screws at a later date. Also at the back of the magnet you'll need to drill a hole for a lead to come up through, a small wire to come up through to join with your coil, because the coil wire is very fragile, so you need to come through there, put a knot in the wire, we'll show you that later on, and then solder it to the 2 ends of the coil wire. Now the next thing to do is to put a piece of insulation tape. First thing you need to do is to get a block of wood, bring a bolt through the wood, screw it up tight, get a piece of double-sided tape to go in between, stick it together, and this is how you're going to wind your coil. You need to put just a piece of insulation tape just around the magnets. Okay, well, I'll do that. You need just one layer of tape. Okay, we've got the tape on. So now what we need to do then is put it in the end of a wheel brace, which is one of these. Okay, this goes into the wheel brace in the end. Tighten it up. You've now got a source for winding the coil, and that's so that the wire doesn't actually touch on the magnets. I don't know why it works, but it does. Okay, the next thing we must do is get the wire, which is a very fragile wire. It's very small, it's about 1/100th of a millimeter thick. You bring that across. Okay, you can't see this because it's so fine. It's about twice the size, about twice the thickness of a human hair. Now, since starting the winding of the pickup, I've realised that I've just changed this reel to the horizontal. It was a vertical when we started, but I realised that this wire is so fine it actually falls off the reel when it's going along, and it binds up underneath the reel onto the spindle. So I put it on a horizontal plane now, so that we can wind it a lot easier, and it will run straight onto the coil, and it's going a lot easier. Just use your finger as a jockey wheel. and it sort of takes the tension because there's a long and a short bit on a coil, as you can see, and it needs to be the same all the way along. It's going a lot easier now. This is going to take quite a long time because I'm trying not to break the wire, which is quite possible. I've just finished the windings onto the coil. I normally do it in about 4 or 5 different times because if you do it all at once you'll get a bit fed up with it after about 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, and try to go a little bit faster, and very often that's when you break these very fine bits of wire. So I normally do it in 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5 different times. As soon as I get fed up with it I stop and I leave it and I go and do something else, and then I come back to it. I've removed this piece of wood that I've used, if you remember, in the drill that actually turns the coil, and the next thing we have to do is to solder the very fine wires onto a shielded piece of shielded guitar lead, or a shielded lead of some sort. Therefore you don't get any hum and stuff like that when you actually put it together. The next thing to do is to tape with insulation tape. Is to actually tape up so that nothing unfurls. So it's all very fine wires and it will unfurl if you're not careful. So the best thing to do really is to take a strip of insulation tape and just lay it gently across. Try and keep the top edge nice and neat, because that's what you'll see. That's what you'll see when you when your pickup is in place. So just lay that down gently. You can't see these small wires; they're so fine. But the thing to do now is to just try and get this tape on, so that it covers the wires. Before you do this, you do need to check that there's no breaks in the wire and that your joint is firm when you solder the joint. You tin the wires by just getting some multi-core solder, insulation tape on, and it won't look quite so bad. So there you have it, and I have tested it to make sure that it works, and it's all working fine and it sounds lovely. I've just held it over a normal guitar by the strings, strum the guitar, and it comes through a speaker beautifully. So I know that works. When you actually, once you've joined the guitar lead, shielded lead, to the coil, fold a piece of, just a small piece of tape over the joint. Therefore you won't get any contact with either of the ends, so they don't actually touch one another. If you just crease the paper, crease the insulation tape a little bit like that, and just put the joint that you've just soldered in and just squeeze it flat like that, and that will give you insulation enough. And do the same with both tapes, with both wires, and they'll lay flat on the coil. Well, that's your pickup more or less finished. All you need to do now is, when you're ready, you can push this through the hole in the guitar, in the pickup well that we've already made, and that'll go through and that'll go back to the back of the guitar, and it will come onto one of these, which is a jack socket. You can get different kinds. This is an older type, I think, but it all works the same. Basically your jack plug goes in there, it touches, one is on the common side, one's on the other side, so you get a contact as soon as you put it in, and away you go. And this is virtually the same with this one. And you've got a nice little nut on the end, and that'll give you a nice finish on the outside of your guitar. Once you've drilled your holes, you can put it through. Try and keep it, if you can fit it to the top part of the body. If your body comes apart, which mine does, if it comes apart, try and get it on the top part. Put an angled piece of aluminium or something on there so that it actually joins to the top part of the guitar body, so that when you actually take the side body off, it doesn't interfere with the pickup or the pickup lead to the jack socket.